Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, and super excited to have a conversation with you and learn a few things from you as well. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about is networking and relationship building in business or personal life. So, before we get to that, I'd love to know more about yourself. Like, how did you, being an entrepreneur yourself, and build your career where you are today?
Absolutely. You know, coming from being a high school dropout to being able to really start to educate myself in various ways, kind of unconventionally, not necessarily through institutions, but being able to really go and seek mentorship and coaching and seminars, webinars, really equipped me at an early age to really kind of take on the game of real estate. And I was able to kind of, through the game of real estate, I was able to accumulate wealth. And that wealth then allowed me to then go and experience life. So
Right.
I got to live my lifestyle, and throughout that, I started getting really good at connecting with people and learning from people because I was traveling so much and just connecting with so many people.
Yeah.
And that really kind of put the forefront of me now having to, kind of come out of my shell back home in Canada and move out all the way to the States now for the movement that we're starting that we'll share about in a little bit.
Yeah. That's an interesting journey. Like, when did you make the move, like from Canada to US?
Last year, kind of right towards like the end of the pandemic, it
Okay.
was a decision that I was kind of looking to make it in terms of going somewhere new and really being fresh.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is the relationship aspect of how to really connect, because it's the relationships that allow you to start to move the needle in your
Mm.
world in different ways. I would never have expected to come out to Florida,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But all of a sudden now I'm living here. So it's been an interesting journey.
Is the business as you started in Canada or like you started in US? Did you have like a
Yes.
prior businesses in Canada?
Yeah, so we're commercial real estate developers and investors. So
Mhm.
we do commercial retail strip mall development and house it with small businesses and manage properties and then sell them to investors. So we've been doing that for about 10 years now, and that's in the Calgary, Alberta area up in Canada,
Yeah.
and a small municipality called Airdrie, Alberta. And that's kind of where the real estate side started. What I always like to always say is like I have an engine and I have a passion. The
Okay.
engine is my real estate. It's what allows me to make money and be able to live a lifestyle. But my passion now is being able to actually inspire and empower those that want to now start to live with abundance, freedom, and wealth. So that's
Right.
my coaching and educational side of things that we're now building in the works here.
That's great. That's great. And congrats, like over a decade of experience in a real estate business, right? It's a quite long term. Like the time flies when you're actually
It
building
does. It does.
something.
10 years.
Yeah. So over the last 10 years, you've been in a business, you probably made so much connections, so many relationship, like people you didn't know. Now you probably knows all over the globe, right? We have like that kind of relationship today and being in podcast, like you made another connection in UK comparing to like where you was in Canada then the US. So let's talk about that. How do we can create them kind of networks like where I heard like every time like all wealthy people they say is your network is your net worth, and that's like absolutely true like when it comes down to the business. So how important do you think like networking is involved in like building a successful business?
Well, it starts off by simply saying this: it's all about people.
Yeah.
People created everything. Everything that we know till this day for on Earth is because of people. I was watching this documentary the other day. It was just a quick little 6 minute documentary,
Mhm.
and and they made a simulation of if people just completely disappeared, and it showed where the Earth, the actual Earth, would go. How much it started, like the trees started coming into the streets, and the way that it just decayed. And within 10,000, 100,000, a million years, like the Earth was no more.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that people are everything. And it's crazy enough that we don't actually spend the time and energy or even thought patterns to learn more on how to actually connect with people. Like, what are the actual stages? People are sometimes, afraid to public speak or, afraid to approach that person that they want to connect with. But in reality, if you start to understand how to really learn the mechanics behind relationships, it's amazing where your life can actually start to just completely change. And one step, you said it, network is your net worth. Sorry, your net worth is your network.
Yeah.
And it's true, because you start to associate yourself with those types of people. You are the byproduct of the 5 people you hang around with. So we start to now kind of see that, and getting into those rooms with the right people starts to elevate where you are as a person and kind of closer to your success and dreams.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with you. So people actually create all kind of businesses, relationship, everything around us like is people thing. Probably there is the AI and everything's coming to in future, but again, who's operating behind the scene is the people, right? So how do you create kind of relationship with the people then where I can create like a network of people, like what we'd have to worry about, like if someone in a job they're looking for, or like they're starting a business, like
Yep.
looking for an investor, looking for like a team of clients, or like finding a talent for their uh, organization. How do you create such a network? Then we always like with people.
Look, the simple answer is this. If you want to be able to build connection and real relationships with people, you have to go in with a pure intention.
Hmm.
This is something that's looked, over so many times because it's like, what is the intent of you actually wanting to connect with somebody? As long as that's a pure intention, you can move forward. That's the short answer. The long answer now starts to understand now to really be able to manifest the energy to go and connect with people, build those relationships, build businesses, book a business, clients, all that kind of stuff. It takes you understanding the supercomputer up here.
Right.
That's why I'm such a big believer of the psychological side of things. And, with my studies in NLP and hypnotherapy and really decoding the brain a bit more on how we actually speak to ourselves and communicate to ourselves before we can even communicate to another human being.
Yeah.
It's interesting to really get into your own mind and start to see, that little, I always call it the little mini J, little version of me that's inside my brain that's kind of just like making sure I blink and I'm breathing and my heart rate's going. That little mini J needs to start, I need to understand him more,
Hmm.
because understanding your supercomputer allows you to start really owning and being whole and complete with who you are as a person. And once you can do that, then the pure intention comes out and you can go out and you can actually build that confidence to get into a conversation, be in the right elevator to do that pitch. And all of a sudden, again, either your business career moves forward or you find the lover of or your soulmate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And right now, like we see, like since pandemic happens, like a lot of like face-to-face conversation networking is reduced so much. In my hometown, like where I'm in Manchester City area, like the networking event used to be like every other week. They shut down, and I've been waiting for like last 3 years now. And because the connection you get for like actually seeing the face to face of someone and the
Absolutely.
relationship it builds, it's not there anymore. Like I don't know what happens to the US, is the same or not, but did you see like the difference between like a virtual networking compared to like face to face?
Yeah, of course. Like energy is everything. Let's just
Yeah.
start there, right? So when you're in front of somebody and you're with somebody, you can feel energy. It's
Mm,
hard to do off screens like this. It's good that videos come into play because now at least, I
yeah.
go back to the ratio of communication. 55% is body language. It's physically what my hands are doing, how my eyes are looking. 38% is the nonverbal now, which is the tonality, which is the pitch, the volume, the duration, and the way that I use my language to put character to it, and
Yeah.
only 7% is really just the words. So this is what's so crazy about communication is everyone's so focused on saying the right thing, but it really is only 7%.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
interesting,
so
isn't
when
it?
you start to understand communication like that, it's kind of a, it's a different game. You start to again learn the mechanics of things.
Yeah. So like right now, like what's your methods like in networking at the moment? Like you've been talking to investors, you've been an investor yourself. Like, do you see like is the same of return on investment you see like a virtual compared to like a physical environment?
Hey, listen, I moved to Florida for a reason. People say, why'd you move to Florida? I say freedom. I meant the weather. I meant the
Yeah.
weather. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
The point is that, like, you have to see where opportunity is, and face to face is still always going to be the methodology that's going to be able to close those big deals for sure. When
Mm,
we're raising millions of dollars for our funds and our companies and our partners, it's it's a matter of being able to actually showcase that you are at the level of success to these investors. I was talking about raising capital, and like raising under 1 million is a certain type of person that you're dealing with, and then over 1 million is a certain different type of person. It's actually easier to raise over 1 million than it is under 1 million, which is
right.
crazy why people say, how do I raise my first 100,000? How do I, buy my first investment property? If you start to understand, again, the game of it, you start to understand the rules and the mechanics of it, you start to look at it and say, okay, well, sophisticated investor is going to look at basic things. As long as I know my numbers and I know what I'm talking about, they're going to lend it because they know that it's all based on backing, security, and actual, numbers.
Yeah.
So we apply that same thing back here. Now that's how, you start to really kind of put, again, the mechanics to it.
Yeah, that's great. So moving to like US, you've been like seeing them kind of deals and everything flow through like much better than compared to if you was in a back home in Canada and doing it over the Zoom or like over the phone. You wouldn't get that effective as effective you're getting right now. So what kind of seeing it is like relationship wise, like building a relationship with the client, prospect, investors, how do you can create such a relationship where everyone can like trust and like give us the money for like investing wise? If it's like someone starting a real estate business, there is a lot of money involved, like $200,000-300,000 for like a piece of property. So that kind of investment you want to get, or for like a business startups, you need to have like a kind of trust you need to create.
Mhm.
So how do you create that kind of trust and relationship? Someone can refer you to new businesses, someone can refer to investors, someone can give you the money or lend you money.
So it's like I always talk about there's a mind brain, there's a heart brain, and then there's a gut brain. So the gut
Right.
brain is always usually like that gut instinct about someone. That's just being able to recognize that pure intention. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are intuitive, so they can really feel it and they can understand that. But ultimately, really, if you think about it, is that to build initial rapport with somebody is about being in service. So being in service to a person of saying, I'm here to add value allows you to initially bring that pure intention and build that initial trust, because then the gut feelings align.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of it becomes now the mechanics, almost like the actual what and how. So now we go to the heart and we go to the mind. So when we go to these two now, we understand that people really don't buy what you do. They don't buy how you even do it. They buy why you do it.
Right.
So now when we went, and Simon Sinek is really really good for the golden theory that he uses, because it's really powerful to understand the what, the how, and then the why. So now to understand that, are you going in and actually selling this as a deal, to raise the capital? Are you actually looking at the interest of that investor? Are
Mm-hmm.
you really coming from the perspective where you want to actually help that person and add value to their world? Because then if you are, then you're actually going to treat that relationship a little bit differently. You're not going to necessarily talk about the facts and features and benefits, because that
Yeah.
kind of stuff isn't going to sell somebody like that. And this comes for sales in general, whether it's $1 million you're raising, whether it's, a $10 product that you're selling. You have to be able to, like you said, build that initial trust. And then you have to nurture that. Grant Cardone is really known for talking about the follow-up process. He's the number one sales trainer. And he always talks about
Yeah, that would
follow-up.
be my next question about follow-up. How often do you follow up?
Well, think about it like this: selling a product, just from Grant Cardone's, language,
Yeah.
is there between 8 to 13 touch points before you're going to get that sale. So
Mm.
you need to follow up with somebody 8 times before they're going to buy you just a product. So let alone now if you're actually trying to go out there and find like a wife or a husband or a soul, what I mean. Like you
Yeah.
better be following up every single day. You know what I mean? That this is the relationship is the hardest part, because it actually takes work. And the problem with relationships now is that we don't put in the work because we think we're doing the work. We think we're contributing. We think that we're, just. I have so many couples of my clients that come to me, and now I'm working with couples directly on psychological brain
Mm.
rewires, because it's like they're both so powerful. They both know exactly what they need to do. They are doing what they do, but for some reason, they're just not aligning. There's some sort of disconnect there. And that's all because they both need to independently work on themselves first, get a little more whole and complete with themselves. And then everything's just going to mesh together, because y'all are married, you have kids, the whole point. Y'all love each other, and we love each other. And it's like, it's crazy to see how relationships, like from a couple standpoint to just friends, like a friendship or a business partnership, to then even like family, when you have children and you have parents and siblings. So these are the relationships. And again, how I'm trying to map this out is I'm taking into consideration the types of relationships, mixing it with my intention now, and then being able to actually go there and use my language in a inclined way to now converse my message and be able for them to understand what I'm actually meaning, but and also saying.
Definitely, definitely. So, a lot of salespeople, a lot of business owners, they only get touch point of two, three, then they just don't bother about the prospect or like a client or even though like an investor, and they just give up on it, and that's why they lose out lots of sales, lots of money in terms of relationship, and also like they could have been like give you some kind of referrals if you chase and ask. Don't even no one even ask for like a referrals, like a lot of business owners, like they have like great clients, they're servicing them like a great, but end of the day, like they've been working with them 2 3 years and never even asked for like a one referral. How are you able to get kind of the a relationship and get kind of like a business? So I know like we talked about a lot of, about professional side of it, relationship building. Let's talk about like a personal side of it. So how do someone like, obviously the relationship needs to be at home first, stronger, than the actually create to like go and outside and do better yourself. So how do you
Mhm.
someone like a got partner, spouse, or like a family member? How can they can create a strong relationship with their family members?
So family members, honestly, relationships are relationships. Whether you were going to classify as professional or personal.
Mhm.
On the personal side, right? Family is a little bit interesting because family, especially for me, for example, I know my family loves me. I know that they want the best for me,
Yeah.
but they don't know what's best for me. This is the hard thing about parents, and especially like the internal family, like your siblings and your parents, because this internal situation is that they're going to keep giving you advice on what they think is right in their own perspective, but that may not be for you. But they have pure intention because they love you and all they want is the best for you. So it's interesting dynamic when we look at like a parent child type of relationship. This is interesting because this is a massive generational gap that's in between these two. The way that the parents, even in their 30s, even like my age right now, I'm 29 right now, and I'll tell you, even at my age, the way that I grew up was completely different than the way these kids are growing up. I had to go ask my mom permission to go play outside, run over to Timmy's house, knock on Timmy's door, and be like, "Mom, can Timmy come out to play?" And then we'd go ride bikes and do that kind of stuff. But and to have the confidence to even talk to his mom. But this generation is a quick text, tweet, it's gone. So this is interesting dynamic between parent and child now, because these children are coming into such a tech savvy world, but they're coming into a very independent world, which means in high school, they're already thinking about where they want to be in the next 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. Right? We didn't think about that in high school. In high school, we were just like, let's try to make class, let's try to graduate. Then we got to go to college for 4 years. And like that was kind of that pathway that we were set on. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to college. Like my young teenager that I basically adopted now, like he finished when he was 16 years old because he did online school during COVID and just got the whole thing done. He's like, I'm not going to college. And now he's going to become the vice president of my company, makes over 6 figures next year. Like it's incredible. And their minds are so intelligent. But this generational communication error now of the parents now is the parents still think that they're right, but they also do have traditional foundations that these don't understand yet. And these ones are moving so quickly and they're going. But the parents now can see, like, okay, I can see that you're running, but I also see the track. You don't see how long the track is. I'm at least seeing where the track is, and I know where some of the hurdles might be. And that's kind of the misconnection that's happening when I see the parents and child kind of the arguments and the some of the psychological work that I do with families as well too, is when you see the children are going to be in their mode. When we were young, we didn't really like we were going to, whether we rebelled or not, like it was just kind of it was a perspective. You're just at that age. But now with modern day technology and the connectivity of you being able to see where your kid is, see what they're posting online, get connected with them, they're so immersed in one another. Like my mom couldn't even answer like we had the landline, right? And I would pick it up, and then she would pick it up while I was on the phone with a girl, and I'd be like, "Mom, get off the phone," and like she would get off the phone. But now like they can tap into where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing, and they see everything. So this is why this communication error here, to wrap this up, is really about understanding parent and child to both level each other out, but to come in from a perspective of what's an activity that we can do that can just get us away from talking about anything personal or professional. That is one of the magical keys that I've given my parents, clients, is just create an activity that's only with you and the child, not talking about business, personal, school, just being in the moment. Go do an activity, like it doesn't go for a walk. It could be anything, because that stimulates just the internal bond between parent and child without any language. The language is how we ruin it, because we
Yeah.
talk too much, and then we get angry, and then we fuel fires, and then and then you start getting these tensions that create, and that's all the emotional stability that you need as well too. And I could go on and on for emotional intelligence and security, like stability. That's my zone.
Yeah, I like that. I use the same method like on our house as well. Like I have like a 1.5 years old child. So we try to focus on that as well. And me and my wife always talk to like our family members, like you just mentioned, like have your own time, own family rules, own time of
Yeah.
situation, like where everyone can open up like as best friends and come to you and get from advice and ask you something. They open up and share. Like if I like a girl, if I like a boy, they can come and tell you that rather than like you finding out from like someone else, your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
That kind of relationship actually helps. Like, hey, mom, hey, dad, like this thing is not something right for me. Like, can I switch? Can I something? Like a best friend, like ask for advice. I want that kind of relationship. The one you have like that kind of relationship is stronger rather than you like trying to be bossing around and manage them.
Yeah.
You rather be like a guide them as a guide, but not actually being a boss. Like this is no one actually like it, not even like a workplace, not even a home. So Jay, like if someone comes to you and asks for like a one advice on building a relationship and like a be a great and a networking, what advice would you give them?
Brain
What
rewire.
advice? Sorry.
Brain rewire. Not to be such an advocate of what I do for work, but the coaches and mentors that have poured their hearts, souls, and knowledge into me, the millions of dollars that I've been able to spend in the last decade now on my personal development has really got me in a position to understand, like I told you, the brain. And the rewiring process is a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. And creating the repetition and routine of part of the brain is what you now need to autocorrect in every human being. Because every human being, especially where we live right now, we have things called childhood traumas that are holding us back. So these childhood traumas are certain things that you may not even understand or even know until you have that type of advice and that coaching and that guidance to be able to uncover what that is. And once you can really be able to rid that, you start to, I like to say, uncage your roar. So your lion or your lioness now gets to come out. At that point, now you're able to actually go out into the world and be ready for relationships. So the easy answer is that nobody's ready for relationships until they truly work on themselves and get whole and complete. So whether you need somebody else to do that, and like that's the thing, it's the hardest part now because it took me many, many years to do seminars, programs, workshops, all the conferences, again, like hundreds of thousands of dollars put into this. But ultimately, it came down to what is the implementation of all that knowledge? You can learn anything and everything, but how do you implement that? And the only way to implement that is to psychologically rewire your mind so you are on point with understanding yourself. And that allows you now to go and build the most authentic relationships, the ability to connect with anyone, anywhere, anytime, using your language as the forefront, but really connecting with energy. And then it doesn't matter whether you're trying to close the next deal, whether you're trying to find the relationship of a lifetime, your soulmate, or maybe you're just, you're going on a stage like this and being able to speak to thousands of people. It just matters on the intention and that purity. And then on top of that, just like the aspect of you understanding this up here.
Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, Jay, coming to the end of this podcast. So those who are listening, if anyone interested to learn more about you and check out your stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, you just go to jaydhahan.com. That's usually my go-to spot. I'm on Instagram as well too, which is nice. Always gotta keep in these times. The TikTok stuff, I'll be honest, man. That's my team that handles that kind of stuff. But you got to be on socials. And even in closing, and I really appreciate you because what you're doing here is so powerful. You're connecting people together. You're allowing your audience to reach out and see different types of lifestyles and backgrounds and experiences. And I think it's we need more people like you in this world that are willing to connect, whether it's digital, whether it's in person, wherever you are, I'm going to come fly out and see you one day. You know what I mean? Like we will connect one day.
Yeah, definitely.
The point is that you're actually taking the time and effort to actually connect the world together. So we need more people like you, and the more that we can get this influence on cameras like this and out there, and the outreach and getting more people to use these social media devices for the right reasons. I feel like in the time that we're in right now, we're using them for wrong reasons. We're using them to compare and to create negative mindsets and negative thought patterns versus using them to actually uplift, motivate, connect, and really, utilize them to take our world to the next level. So the smart ones in the world and the wealthy ones in the world are all thinking something. Everyone else is kind of doing their thing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you are. There's only one race, and it's the human race. So whether we label smart, fat, dumb, good, this, bad, all it comes down to is that we're just one human race. And the more that we learn how to connect this world together, the more that we're going to know the impact that we can leave now for the next generation.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Jay. I really appreciate it. So I wish you best of luck with your business, your career, and your time today. I wish you have like a wonderful day, and rest of the year goes well with you as well.
Of course, my man. Appreciate you, and absolutely, you have a good day.
Thank you. Take care. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it and got some value from it. So those who's interested in learning more about Jay, go visit his website. Also check him out on Instagram profile as well. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.